Mindset advice not working for you? T. Scott is here to change that. From a 26-year real estate career to creating Sisu Vida, a groundbreaking platform built to shift minds and unlock potential. Join us as T. Scott shares how his gym for your mind is transforming lives, helping people reconnect with their inner strength, one mindset shift at a time. Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Are you ready to create real change in your leadership, your career, your life? Join me for a complimentary Lead and Thrive session, a 60-minute one-on-one strategy session where we will discuss your specific needs and map out the next steps to lead yourself and others powerfully. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Visit transformyourperformance.com/Lead Thrive session to book your Lead and Thrive session today. Let's work together to make it happen. Welcome to Rise to Lead. Today I'm here with T. Scott from Arizona. It's great to have you here, T. Scott.
Thank you. It's so great. It's so great to be on your podcast. I watched an episode last week, and I'm like, I have to reach out because I really loved it. So yes, it was great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for watching that. So I'm going to introduce you to our audience today, and then we're going to jump right in. I'm so curious about what you will be sharing with us about mindset, because I know it's going to be unique. So for anyone listening, you have not heard or seen what T. Scott has to offer before. I promise you that. So T. Scott is the founder and CEO of Sisu Vida, the elite mind and body rewiring accelerator, a revolutionary platform helping entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and high performers permanently overcome mental roadblocks and unlock their peak potential. After decades in real estate and personal development, T. Scott cracked the code on identity-based transformation, eliminating the need for books, seminars, or expensive coaching. Through his 6-method mind-shifting system, he helps clients rewire limiting beliefs, eliminate toxic habits, and activate unshakable discipline, confidence, and focus, often in as little as 10 minutes. Wow, that's cool. Sisu Vida offers 24/7 unlimited access to expert guidance, providing fast, permanent change for the price of a gym membership. Sounds very promising.
It is. It is.
Yeah, so what inspired you to come up with Sisu Vida? And I hope I'm pronouncing this even correctly. And
You
with
are.
your
You are.
good, thank you. And with this specific approach.
Well, I want to answer that question before I do. Like, I want to just address something you said because I think you're right. You know, with mindset, I'm one of those people that's guilty of going to a seminar, like a 2 or 3 day seminar, and the first 2 or 3 hour session is mindset, and I'm one of those people that's guilty. It's like you hear so much about mindset that it's just like it becomes a blur in your mind because it's like, man, I know I'm supposed to do affirmations in the morning and do business planning and set
Nope.
goals and all this stuff, right? Like, I know I'm supposed to do it. Like, well, part of the challenge is you're not doing it. So that's where we come in, right? It's not about what you're supposed to do. It's about why are you not doing it, and let's get you there. So you're correct. What I do is completely different in the mindset space, and hopefully
Yeah.
people get the value out of that because it's like nothing else literally on the planet. But going back to your question, what inspired me to build Sisu Vida was really just this pull and this gravitational pull to do something different, to do something more impactful than what I was doing. My background is real estate. I've been in the industry 26 years selling residential real estate. Never intended to sell residential real estate. I got my license to be a savvy investor. And 26 years later, I realized I lived this really, really long. I like to think of life as chapters. I like to refer to even Sisu
Mhm.
Vida as being the hero of your story. Well, I wrote a 26-year chapter of the business side of my story that I never intended to write. Now, I did really well in the real estate industry for that time, but I realized that my impact was limited. And the reason was because real estate is very transactional. So, over the years, I've really soul searched. What do I want to do? And late 2023, I started to transition my mindset into doing something that is more impactful for people. How do I impact the masses as opposed to being transactional and impacting one person at a time through real estate transactions? How do I go out and impact millions of people? And so I went down this journey, and I'll keep it kind of brief, but I went down this journey. I started out wanting to create a mind and body coaching clinic for kids. I used to coach my kids in soccer, baseball, basketball until they got to the club level. Now they have professional, almost professional coaches. But and so that came to an end, and I really enjoyed working with kids, not just as a coach, but really just helping them develop, helping them build confidence and stuff. And so I started to go down that path. Then I came across this method called mind shifting. So I want people to understand I did not develop mind shifting. Somebody much smarter than me developed mind shifting. His name is Stevie Kent. But not very many people. First thing I realized is not very many people know about this method. And the second thing I noticed was that people were getting transformations in as little as 10 to 15 minutes on, kind of simple day-to-day stuff. Maybe it's mental clutter, just things that just are constantly cluttering your mind. And
Mhm.
so people were getting such fast transformations. In fact, there are therapists and life coaches and people that started doing mind shifting, and now their clients, that's what they want. They want mind shifting. They don't want the old stuff. They want the new stuff. And so they started to transition and just exclusively doing mind shifting work. And so, anyway, I came across this method, and I just slowly went through this transformational process of how do I take something somebody else built, as far as the science, right? The
Mhm.
science of mind shifting, something somebody else created, and how do I take that to the masses? And so, what I did is I started building the Sisu Vida platform. And the Sisu Vida platform is exactly that. It's ultimately, I like to refer to it as a gym membership for the mind. And I built it so that people had, instead of going into a mind shifting session with a life coach or well, a mind shifting coach, but now it could be a life coach or it could be a therapist, because there's some of them that are catching on to mind shifting are starting to do it. But instead of spending $175 a session, how do I make it to where it's a no brainer, where everybody that comes across it, it's like, I have to do this. It's not really an option because it's super affordable and it's super transformative. So I built out the Sisu Vida platform, and I made it to where it's 24/7 unlimited access for the price of a gym membership. And so you can get an annual membership for literally, I mean, what feels like pennies on the dollar compared to what you would spend out on the open market. But it really, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but it's really can transform anybody, whether you're a business owner or you're just somebody that's facing depression. I built out a bunch of roadmaps, and again, we can talk about that. But anyway, yeah. So I built out this platform, and here we are, 9 months later, finally completely ready to launch, and I'm super excited about it.
9 months later. It's almost funny. Like, it was like it was getting ready for birth, right? In, in
I,
9 months.
I walked completely away from real estate thinking that I could build it in a couple months. What I
Yeah.
ended up doing, Regina, is I ended up actually building two companies out of it. And the 9 months has been worth it because what I did was I made a lot of pivots along the way to make the product better. It started out, it was going to be group sessions. Now it's just completely one-on-one, 24/7 unlimited with a mind shifting expert. And so the pivots along the way were really, really um, they were massive. I mean, they went from making the product good to making the product amazing. And then I built a bunch of bonus stuff into it also. So I mean, masterminds and all kinds of stuff that you get for one price. There's no upsells or anything. It's one price. I just want people to get into Sisu Vida because I know it'll change their life.
Yeah, it definitely sounds promising and amazing. So tell us just quickly. I didn't hear it yet. I think. What does Sisu Vida actually stand for? The name. I mean, I know that Vida in Portuguese and in Spanish is life, but
Yes.
what does Sisu stand for then?
Sisu is a Finnish word. The cool thing, I was doing an open house last summer, so about 10 or 11 months ago, right before I, excuse me, walked out of the real estate industry, sitting there by myself for 3 hours. And I got on my phone and I just started doing Google searches on my phone. I'm like, I'm going to come up with a name for this company because the company was starting to develop in my head at that point.
Mhm.
Like, I need to come up with a name. So I started doing Google searches and I came across this word Sisu. Sisu is a Finnish word. And basically, if you take all the most amazing words in the English language and put them into one Finnish word, that is Sisu. But ultimately, I just break it down to extraordinary. And so Sisu, extraordinary, Vida, life. So I combined a Finnish and a Spanish word together, and here we are, Sisu Vida.
And we'll make it even more international. Okay, cool.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
It's
plus
funny. I
it's
have a
always a
shirt that
great
says Sisu.
question.
It's funny. I have a shirt that says Sisu and it has the definition,
Uh-huh.
the full definition on it. And every
Yeah.
once in a while, I'll come across a Finnish person and they're like, "Love that shirt." So
Yeah.
Americans are like, "I don't know what Sisu means," or but or anybody that's not Finnish kind of is like, "I don't know what that means," but you come across a Finnish person, they absolutely love it.
Plus, it's a great conversation starter because everybody's going to ask you what it means, as I did
Yeah,
right now.
yeah,
Okay. Well, yes. And, we were talking about, we mentioned affirmations earlier, and I'm actually not the biggest fan of affirmations. And when I read on your website that your method is not about, or at least not just about positive thinking and affirmations, that's where you had me, right? Because
yeah.
if positive thinking alone and affirmations were the solution, then I think most people I know would be multimillionaires by now. But it's just not how it exactly works. And affirmations can actually often be counterproductive if they're not used in the right way, or if they, to contradict your subconscious programming too much, it's too abrupt. So I actually prefer questions instead of affirmations, for that piece of it. But anyway, so we don't have to go into all the technicalities of when they work and when they don't work. It's just more, okay, why am I saying this? Because I want to know, what the elite mind and body rewiring accelerator, I have to read that because it's a long expression, is about, in simple words, right? If we stripped away all the jargon of it, what is it that's truly different about your approach to mindset and leadership?
Yeah, well, I love the way that you led into that because you're absolutely right. If we would all be multimillionaires if all we had to do is our positive affirmations and positive thinking in the morning. The other challenge with affirmations, by the way, is consistency. So people are like, well, why
Yeah.
don't you do it? If you think it's going to work, why is there no consistency with it? What we have to understand is that when we're mentoring people, whether it's in leadership, sales, or anything else, when we're mentoring people, what a lot of leaders don't understand is they're trying to lead them from the action level. So if we think about the mindset as a pyramid, we have the action level at the top, okay? Then below that, we would have thoughts and emotions. Below that, we would have beliefs, and then the foundation would be identity. Well, if you're constantly telling people to lead from the action level, the challenge is they somewhere along the way they took an action. So let's just follow the process for a second. Somewhere along the way, they got on a phone call and they got rejected. And that rejection led to negative thoughts and emotions. Okay, so we go one notch down. Now we have negative thoughts and emotions. Those negative thoughts and emotions gave them a limiting belief. I'm not the right person to do this. I don't have enough confidence to do this. And then that limiting belief created an identity: shy person, timid person, unconfident person. And so the challenge again with leadership is we're trying to lead from the action level, which is, well, think positively. We're telling people to lead with actions, yet their identity is stuck in a place where they can't actually take the actions because they have all of these things in their head. They have all this clutter in their head, and they have this identity that's telling them that they're not confident, they're not charismatic, they're not whatever. And
And
so what
emotions,
Sisu, what's
which is a
that?
very important part of it too, because we tend to talk a lot about limiting beliefs, but and emotions. I just want to add.
So yeah, no. So remember, so emotions are that second level from the top.
Mhm.
Limiting beliefs are the third level,
Mhm.
but it goes
Yep.
one level deeper, and the level deeper is identity. So you'll
Yep.
even hear some coaches talk about crushing limiting beliefs, which is great. But we got to deal with the identity first. If we deal with the identity, then we can work that triangle in reverse. And now we take the identity. Now the limiting beliefs dissipate. We have more positive thoughts and emotions. And guess what?
Mhm.
We can take the actions. So to answer your question, what Sisu Vida does is 6 mind shifting methods. The methods are problem shifting. Problem shifting basically is the most commonly used method. It's a method that just is really designed to clear simple problems like daily mental clutter. I'm having trouble focusing. I'm having trouble waking up in the morning. Hitting that snooze button on the alarm clock. I'm fighting with my wife. My kids are driving me nuts. The daily mental clutter, problem shifting can clear a lot of that. And again, in as quick as 10, 15 minutes. And a lot of times it's permanent transformation. If problem shifting doesn't solve it, the second method would be blockage shifting. Blockage shifting is really now. By the way, these methods are guided. These are not therapy sessions. This is not me and you having a conversation. Tell me all the challenges. These are guided sessions designed to get into your deep-rooted subconscious. Okay, and so that is the difference. Is we're guiding you through getting into your subconscious and releasing your subconscious. And so second is blockage shifting. If something is so deep rooted that problem shifting isn't solving it, we will jump into a blockage shifting session, or we'll guide them into a blockage shifting session. The third is belief shifting, getting rid of limiting beliefs. The fourth is identity shifting, which we were just talking about. The fifth is trauma shifting. Now, trauma shifting is really important because a lot of times when people think of trauma, they think of like things way back in the past. They think of being abused as a child, losing a parent at a young age, being bullied. But trauma shifting can be something as simple as, hey, my girlfriend broke up with me last month and she said I'm a narcissist, right? And somehow you internalize that, and now you're like running around with this identity of being a narcissist, and it's not really who you are, and so trauma shifting, again, not just, I mean, it could be any type of trauma, anything that you've internalized that somebody has said to you that was hurtful. We can use a trauma shifting
Exactly.
session. And then reality shifting is really, now we're at the action level. So now reality shifting, when I build out my roadmaps, and again, we can talk about that, but when I built out these roadmaps, reality shifting is almost always last. Well, maintenance is always last, but it's number 6 on a roadmap out of 7, because now we're talking about not goal setting, but goal achievement sessions. Okay, so now we've got all that mental clutter, all that garbage out of our head. Now we're talking about strictly, let's get into goal achievement. Now we're ready to take action. We're ready to hit those goals. And so, yeah, those are the 6 mind shifting methods, and that's how that works.
So just remind me for a moment. I saw something about roadmaps on your website. Is that's the same thing?
Yeah. So what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what I did was I started out when I started to build this. My core audience was really designed to for entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople. And the
Mhm.
reason was a couple. Number one is I built the original roadmap based on productivity for those people.
Mhm.
One of the reasons is I know that we will invest in ourselves, right? To take the average person on the street and have them actually even realize that they have a problem. Their life is in shambles and they don't even realize that they could fix it. Or they don't even realize they have a problem, let alone that they could fix it. But as entrepreneurs, business owners, sales associates, we're always investing and working on ourselves. We know we can be better. We know we have to be better in order to achieve our goals and to provide for our families. And so I really built this with those people in mind, knowing that they would invest in themselves. And I built out the original roadmap. It was just going to be one roadmap for productivity. The challenge is that Sisu Vida really is for everybody, and I didn't want anybody to be excluded. And so what I did is I ended up building, right now we're over 45, between 45 and 50 roadmaps. I'm not even sure what the exact number is, but we're somewhere between 45 and 50 roadmaps. One of the things that inspired me to build more roadmaps is I started thinking about people that were in really, really severe extreme situations, such as depression. Maybe somebody that has had suicidal thoughts. And that really inspired me to take Sisu Vida, instead of just a platform for business owners, and those types of folks, and really build it out where anybody can plug into Sisu Vida, regardless of who you are, what you do, and what challenges you're having. And so, yeah, so I built out over 45 roadmaps. There's 8 different sections. There's the business builder section, which, by the way, some of the things in business builder could apply to anybody, like focus. Leadership is in that. There's a whole leadership roadmap inside of that. And then there's relationships and social dynamics. There's health and fitness. There's spirituality. What else do I have in there? So I have 8 different maintenance. I have 8 different sections, and inside of those sections, all the roadmaps fit in. And what it does is it makes it to where Sisu Vida is relatable to everyone. And now all you have to do is follow the roadmaps. You say, hey, you know what? I am not as charismatic as I'd like to be, or I'm like in social settings or whatever it is. Or my company is asking me to do a speech in front of a group of people next week. I've never done this before. I'm scared as hell to get on a stage and talk in front of people. That's your identity speaking. Regina, we could take anybody in the world. None of us were born shy. We were all born a certain way. We grew up learning how to be whatever it is that we are today, whatever our identity is telling us that we are. We all inside of us, we're not teaching people to be somebody different. We're teaching people how to access their true power identity through Sisu Vida, and that's the difference. And so anyway, so yeah, so what we did is we ended up building out all these roadmaps so that anybody relates to us, not just business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales associates.
Yep. I do want to just quickly add something important, though. We take on basically everything our mothers feel while we're in the womb. So we're actually often born with a lot of stuff. I don't want to call
Sure.
it anything crap because there's also really good stuff in there. But
Yeah.
we are born with limitations in that sense. And we are born with great stuff in that sense, right?
Yes.
But it is not that we are born as clean slates, as a lot of times we hear, right?
Sure.
Yes, there is a lot of conditioning going on after we are born, for sure, in the first
Yeah.
few years, and that's also because you said that earlier. Trauma is not always just physical or even verbal strong abuse. It can be something that, something can be traumatic in our childhood that seems like some minor comment to an adult, right? And I just wanted to point that out too, because a lot of times people think, oh, I haven't really had a traumatic childhood, and yet I have all these limitations now. Why is that? And I have
Yeah.
asked myself this question too, right? And I have figured it out. I have found out why it is. However, I literally was digging up for a long time a lot of things that I never thought would have had any limiting impact on me. So
Right.
it's really a lot that we carry around in our conditioning that we might not even think of. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. I think just to add on to that, as a
Mhm.
child, I think that some of the things that stick with you, you can have 100 positive things said to you, and that one negative thing might be the thing that sticks and creates that identity. And that's how powerful words are at any age, but especially as a child, right? But even as an adult, I mean, I could say 100 positive things to you, and I could say one thing that comes across wrong, and that might be your entire takeaway even as an adult. So I think that's true. And then going back to the birth, as far as the womb, I agree with that. I also think that it would be interesting to see a study where a child kind of went through, kind of like the mother was going through trauma while in the womb, and then coming out, and then that trauma's not there, where it's just a really loving, nurturing, positive um, um, but no, I think your point is very fair, and scientifically you're absolutely right. I think my point with that is that regardless, you're going to have, there's something that's going to happen, kind of like you just said, there's something that's going to happen in your childhood that's going to create something. It's bound to happen because it's just the way that we're wired. And somewhere along the lines, if we want to change that, we have to rewire it.
Okay. All right. So, you talked already about the intersection of mindset and performance, right? And is there anything else that you see leaders getting wrong about that link of mindset and performance?
Yeah, yeah. So, during my 26-year career in real estate, I started to build multiple teams. My timing wasn't great on any of them, but I also found myself very frustrated. It's very frustrating building sales teams. If you're a network marketer, if you're a real estate person, a mortgage person, or maybe you're leading a team of car sales agents. Salespeople typically come from somewhere different. Now, some salespeople might go from one sales job to another, but somewhere along the lines, you're starting out. You've never sold before. And so I like to think about this in regards to leaders that lead sales teams, because it really is a huge part of my target market. In fact, I built out a whole master class specifically for that, to guide a leader through that process using the Sisu Vida platform. But so I think so. What I found myself telling myself was that, you know what, I'm sitting here trying to lead unmotivated people. I'm trying to motivate unmotivated people. Well, the reality was that I was taking people from different backgrounds, and I was trying to fit them into a business that they didn't understand, and I was trying to lead them through with strictly leading them through the skill side of it, not understanding that their mindset was not my mindset. That we were coming from two different places. And so, I wish I had Sisu Vida back then to rewire the mind, because if you're a leader struggling with your sales team, you're like, man, I've done everything. I've given them the skills, I've given them the scripts, I've given them the objection handlers, I've given them the incentives, right? I've given them bonuses, and I have 5% of my staff is amazing, and the other 95%, I cannot get them to perform. I'm going to tell you right now that it has absolutely nothing to do with any of that other stuff that I just mentioned, and it has everything to do with their identity. If you can rewire their identity and find that power identity inside of them, everything will change. And so, yeah, that is the challenge. If I could just boil it down to that, I could talk about a lot of things, but I could boil it down to that one thing. I could take anybody through, if I can rewire their identity, which I can through Sisu Vida, and you can rewire their identity. I can take a school teacher, I can take a police officer, I can take a fireman, I can take a janitor, I can take anybody and create a great salesperson out of that person, because we can now rewire their identity. And that is the most important thing.
Well, I like to say actually, T. Scott, that motivation comes from within always. And that is, in a way, also congruent with what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Because we can inspire, I can inspire people. I can also help them maybe change their perspective to one that might be more beneficial to them, right? And to everyone in the team. I can provide resources like training and whatnot. And then, though, the motivation, because it's the motive why you do something, right? So
Yes.
that's usually coming from within, while inspiration is coming from outside and
Correct.
help and coaching and whatnot. So, um,
Can I just say something on motivation?
please,
Because
please, please go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that's a really important point that you're making. I actually see motivation as a problem. And the problem is that motivation is, if you're trying to motivate your team and you're having a hard time
Mhm.
keeping them motivated, motivation is a temporary, for most people, it's a temporary emotion. It's not a permanent emotion. What we need to wire in people is discipline. And so I actually created a word. I created my own word called
Mhm.
gridity, which is motivated discipline. So
Mhm.
it's not that I don't like motivation, but motivation alone is very hard to sustain. It's just not sustainable for very many people. For the minority of people, maybe for a small percentage, they can sustain on motivation for a long stretch of time. This is why I don't like keynote speaking on its own, by the way. A keynote speech might give somebody a temporary dopamine rush. One person might have an hour, one person might have a day, one person might have a week. But by the end of next week, a keynote speech, all the dopamine is worn off and we're back to business as usual. And so I don't know. So motivation for me is important, but motivation alone is very dangerous if you're relying on it solely. I like to call it motivated discipline, and that's gritty, because discipline is what we really want. Discipline is permanent. Discipline means I'm going to do it regardless how I feel. Motivation means I have to feel like doing it to do it. And so, yeah, so motivated discipline is what I like to refer to it as. But you're correct. I mean, motivation. If you're a sales leader out there and you're just like, I can't motivate these people, let's shift from motivation and let's shift to discipline or a motivated discipline type of wiring.
Yeah, and again, I still believe that motivation comes from within, and it can actually not come from outside because
Yeah.
of how I understand the word. And it could actually be neutral. I can have a motivation to do something or a motivation to do something else or not do something, right? So
Yeah.
I like to dissect words. I have studied quite a
Yeah.
few languages, so that's where that
Yeah, no,
passion
I
comes
like
from.
it. I like
Uh,
it. But even the problem with internal motivation
mhm.
is motivation is still a feeling, is still a temporary feeling. So if I wake up today and I don't feel motivated, I'm not going to do it. But if I wake up today and I don't feel motivated, but I'm disciplined, I'll still do it. And
Yeah.
that's the difference.
My point was I can feel motivated to stay in bed, and there's still a motivation.
Yes.
It's a motive that
Yes.
I have, right? But
Great
it
point.
doesn't really matter. It's just fun. It's just a fun,
I think it's a
word.
great point. No, I think it's a great point. You're absolutely
And
right.
I love to think about the true meaning of words, and I've written about some other words and terms.
Yeah.
Don't be
Nice.
surprised. Okay.
Nice.
So yes, I also do not call myself ever a motivational speaker for that same reason that I just said. And I do call myself an inspirational speaker. I could still have that same problem that you described, that people, are inspired in the moment and then they go away and do nothing. And it's that hype, right? However, if I leave them with an inspiration and something that they can start in the moment. I think that's where also sometimes the difference is, where then they
Yes.
can and where you can inspire a different perspective. That is one of my goals usually when I go speak, is really help people look at whatever they look at, their situation or their issue, whatever you want to call it, from a different perspective that might actually be more beneficial, right?
Yeah, and there's also just speaking to learn, right? And so
Yeah.
if you can invoke inspiration and learning,
Mhm.
so I'm not knocking keynote speeches. I'm knocking the ones that are just pure adrenaline, the
Yeah.
motivational stuff that's just pure adrenaline. It's awesome in the moment, but it's just not lasting. So I think
Yeah.
if you can inspire and teach, then there's absolutely value to that. I think the people that just rely on pure adrenaline, it's great in the moment, it just doesn't last.
Yeah, it's what I called hype. So I totally agree with you on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. What else am I curious about here? Um, So you talk about rewiring, specifically also the way sales leaders think and sales leaders think, so that they can potentially be contagious and with their teams, right? So that their
Yeah.
teams also adopt the leader's mindset, whether they do this, because of what they see from the leader, or because they also apply your process, right? But
Yeah.
what is one surprising belief you help those sales leaders themselves unlearn?
Well, so what I did is I built out a master class. So this was
Hmm.
part of, remember I said 9 months, and during that 9 months, I made a lot of pivots and made a lot of additions and took the product from good to amazing.
Hmm.
And so one of the things I did is I built out a master class for these sales leaders. The first stage, it's a 9-step stage, but the first stage is, first of all, working on themselves, and
Hmm.
then how to help their team develop. Yeah, so I actually built out a master class for that. Remind me your question.
Yeah, I know it was a bit complex. I have to admit that.
That's
So
good.
let me think about how I can simplify it. So All right. So let's just focus on the sales leaders right now, right?
Mhm.
As you just did in your answer too. So what
Yeah.
is one surprising belief that you help those leaders unlearn?
Well, it depends because some
I know there
leaders
are a
are
lot, so I don't want to put
yeah,
you on the
yeah. I
spot.
mean, it depends on what stage the leader's in. I
Yeah.
mean, some leaders, so take networking marketing as an example,
Mhm,
or even some leaders are so new to being leaders
mhm,
that I mean, sometimes they just still have a limiting belief that they can lead, that anybody will follow. So
mhm,
it depends on what stage a leader is in. If a
mhm,
leader is strong already, then I would revert back to the biggest challenge a sales leader that's already strong internally, that leads great by example. I would go back to what I said earlier, which is now you need to understand why your people aren't relating to you, and you need to figure out how to get your people to where you're at, because a strong leader develops leaders.
yeah,
And so the biggest challenge with a leader that's already strong is exactly that. You're trying to do things that aren't working, and the reason is goes back to that identity thing. So really, that's if you're a strong leader and you've been in the industry for a long time and you feel like people follow you really well, but you're still not getting results, I'm telling you what the problem is. It's their identity. And if you'll fix the identity, you will fix your challenge. But again, going back to somebody that's new to leadership, it could be anything. It could be confidence, it could be charisma, it could be focus, it could be a number of things. And so for those people, they have to soul search and say, hey, where are my weaknesses? They can write down their weaknesses, then they can check out the roadmaps, right? Because I built all the roadmaps for you. You can go into the roadmaps and you go, okay, you know what? I do kind of have a challenge focusing. How do I expect my people to focus if I can't stay focused? And so yeah, so then you can kind of revert to the roadmaps, and then it's like, okay, focus, we got that. Now, what about confidence or whatever is on your list? And you can kind of tackle them. You can kind of tackle them that way. But yeah, the answer is it really depends on what stage the leader is in. But there's a lot. But even for the strongest leader, there's. I will tell you this, Regina. The Sisu Vida platform is guaranteed to work as long as you use it. And
good.
again, it goes back to that correlation with the gym membership. It's great if I have a gym membership, but if I don't use it, I'm not going to see results. It's great that I have a book and I'll read the book, but if I don't do what's in the book and what it's telling me to do, it doesn't matter. The great thing about Sisu Vida is you don't have to read books, do online trainings. Now I built the roadmaps are easy. I built some master classes. I want to emphasize you do not have to do a master class to make Sisu Vida work, right? If
Mhm,
you're thinking, oh, well, I want to use Sisu Vida, but I don't want to do a master class, you don't have to. Or you could take the parts of the master class that apply to you and just take the parts where you think you're weak and just do those. You don't have to do the whole thing. I just built them out for more ways, to give you more ideas of how you can grow, whether you're a leader or not, more ways that you can grow as a person. And so, anyway, but yeah, again, you don't have to do those master classes. They're just simply a bonus.
okay. And in your opinion, are there any like sacred cows in sales leadership that you think it's time to stop worshiping? Is there anything that we need to stop doing that comes to mind?
For a sales leader or just in general?
And sales leadership, yes, something that has always been done, like, in a certain way, and that might not be really as helpful as it seems, just because we've always done it.
I hate to make it so simple, but I'm just going to go right back to my my last answer, which is you have to relate to your people. You have to understand instead of just saying they're unmotivated or they're undisciplined. I'm now giving you an avenue to fix whatever the issue is. So now it's up to you to figure out every person. Let's say you have 100 people in your on your sales team.
Mhm.
Every single one of them is coming from a different place, a different situation, a different mindset, and they all have their own unique challenges in life. The cool thing about Sisu Vida is this doesn't just work in the office. This is if you're having challenges at home, we're going to resolve your challenges at home. A lot of times people show up at work and don't perform at work, not because of the work environment, it's because of their home environment, right? We're going to fix it all. We're going to fix the home environment, the work environment, the health and fitness environment, the spirituality, if that's important to you. We're going to fix it all. And so now, as a sales leader, we're taking that part. So now you really can focus on your scripts and all the things that you're good at doing. And let Sisu Vida fix the hard stuff, because that's what we're built for. We're built to fix the hard stuff that you haven't figured out yet, and you're not going to figure out on your own. And now we're going to help you not only make your people more productive, but we're going to help you retain more people, because they're going to be happier and they're going to make more money. So not only are they going to be more productive, but your retention is going to go through the roof as well. So yeah, it's that. I mean, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but for me, it all comes back to that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and of course, because life is a holistic phenomenon. There's not several different areas in our lives. We tend
Yeah.
to think of areas of our life because it makes it easier to categorize. Work, whatever, ever else, right?
Yeah,
But in reality, it's all connected, and one ties into the other. So
absolutely.
we cannot really separate it out, and that's also why it's
Absolutely.
called Sisu Vida and not Sisu Work or Sisu
Yeah.
Sales, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything? This is going to be my final question for you today, T. Scott. Is there anything that could make your approach or your method seem unpopular, or that makes it unpopular, or that what could be a reason why somebody does not want to do it?
Familiarity. They're not familiar. So a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
Putting me in the same box as all the other mindset gurus, which
Mm-hmm.
is a huge mistake because we're not that, would be one, and then familiarity. But again, we've made it so I made this affordable. So if you go to my website and go directly to my website, 1 year membership is $11.97 a year. However, if you will do testimonials, if I never charge $1,200 a year, I will be the happiest man in the world, because my goal is not to charge you $1,200 a year. My goal is to make this go viral so we can reach more people. So I will discount down at least 50% on an annual membership, right? Which, with unlimited, by the way, I recommend that you use it at least twice a week for any problems that pop up. After you've gotten rid of all the clutter, all the trauma, you've created those power identities and all the other stuff, you still want to maintain, right? So I recommend, you want to keep the program, number one, because problems always continue to surface, new stuff. So you're going to use it for that. But reality shifting, remember, is goal achievement. So I'm recommending using it at least once a week, if not more, on Monday mornings or Sunday nights. And so anyway, so the lack of familiarity, I would say, would be part of it. This idea that all mindset coaches are the same. I saw an ad, a Facebook ad recently from, if I said the name, I'm not going to say the name, but if I said the name of this mindset guru that's been around for decades, that everybody knows, he's probably the most prominent in the industry. He put out an ad that literally said, mindset doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. And I went, he gave up on it. He gave up on his core, his core message. He quit on it. And then I had to ask myself, why would he do that? And the answer is because the results aren't there when you lead from the action level. They're not there. And so mind shifting is the only method that I've seen, that I know of, that attacks from the identity level. And once you understand the power of that, and you differentiate Sisu Vida and mind shifting from everything else that's out there, you've unlocked something that I like to say I cracked the code on it. Now again, I didn't develop mind shifting, but I figured out a way to take it to the masses for pennies on the dollar, where you don't have to spend an arm and a leg just to do one mind shifting session. And so anyway, so going back, that would be, I think, the one thing that people would probably have some skepticism around. But I've made it so affordable that if I discount it 50%, let's say it's $500-600 a year, and all you have to do is give me testimonials and give me some referrals, then you have one of the most powerful things you could ever have at the palm of your hands for dirt cheap that you can have forever. And anytime you have a problem, you could get in an argument with your significant other at 2 a.m. and pick up the phone and literally get on the phone with a mind shifting expert. That's how easy we've made it, and you've already paid for it, right? I mean, it's cheap. So yeah, I know that was a long answer, and I kind of went off on a tangent there with pricing, but I wanted to make a point that don't put us in the same box as everybody else, because everybody else, they're succeeding with a small percentage of people, and a lot of that small percentage are people that are already successful in life. The other 95% need something different. They don't need to be told, like we talked about at the outset, to do affirmations and business plan. I'm not knocking positive thinking. Understand me when I say this. That is important, but positive thinking alone won't help you achieve your goals.
Absolutely not. And I do know of at least one other method that I use that is also not like
Yeah.
everyone else's method. So I do want to say that because I
Yeah,
actually
and there
use
may
it
be
and I've
others out
studied
there. The
it.
problem,
And it's just
there may
totally
be other,
different. It's just totally different.
yeah, there may be others out there.
Mhm,
I haven't seen anything that attacks at the identity level. I've seen some
mhm,
belief, but most life coaches and therapists
mhm.
strictly operate at the action level. They never really. There
Well,
are
thank
people
you
that
for
go
that.
to a life coach or a therapist for
Mhm,
years for the exact same
mhm,
issue and pay
mhm,
thousands and thousands of dollars for one singular issue that never
mhm.
gets resolved. Where it's quite possible one session, maybe it takes you 4 or 5 sessions, whatever it is, you within a week or two, you should be able to clear any challenge that you're having using this particular method.
Yeah. So as I said, I'm very curious always about other people's methods, and I'm also love mine, which is awesome, but it's very different. So I'm always open and super curious to learn more and to learn from other people, and to also bring this to our audience so that they can then choose what is what their preferred choice is, because
Yeah, no,
everybody
for sure.
should have that option
For
to
sure. Look, if you have
choose.
options, I think exploring those options, I think just exploring anything outside of the
Mhm.
status quo and making sure that
Yeah.
you're not just paying somebody thousands of dollars and spinning your wheels. I think anything is valuable. I think what the other thing that makes us a little bit different is not just the method. The method is important, but
Mhm.
it's the access, and it's the way that we are distributing it with the access that's really, really powerful with the kind of the 24/7 unlimited type of thing. But yeah, I agree with you. There's probably are other methods. It's just a matter of finding the one that does work for you, though. Don't spend thousands of
Yeah.
dollars and go years.
It depends also on what your entire perspective is on life and where you're coming from with that and all of that. So we have different perspectives in the audience, and that's
Definitely.
why I love to have different people, and with unique offerings, but also with unique approaches and just backgrounds, because the backgrounds also our background and where we are coming from in a way is also a determination factor of what we come up with in terms of ideas and in terms of methodologies. So
Yeah.
there's definitely more than one. Okay, great. Thank you so much, T. Scott, for bringing all this wisdom to us today, and for joining me here, and for sharing your insights and everything that you have shared on mindset and on a new method with us. I'm sure this
Thanks,
is
Regina.
very exciting to our audience.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you and your audience.
Same here. Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you liked this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.